Breakfast Club.
So listen up.
Well, Nick Cannon has been trending since yesterday, and that's because of his most recent episode of his YouTube show, Cannon's Class. And they are saying that he is anti-Semitic and that he has bizarre racial theories. He was talking with Professor Griff, former Public Enemy figure, who also was kicked out of Public Enemy for making similar claims in an interview then. Here is what Nick Cannon had to say about Black people being the true Hebrews.
When we go as deep as the Rothschild, centralized banking, the bloodlines that control everything, even outside of America. When we talk about the people who, if we were truly the children of Israel, and we're defining who the Jewish people are, because I feel like if we actually can understand that construct, then we can see that there is no hate involved. When we talk about the lies, the deceit, how the fake dollar controls all of this, then maybe we can get to the reason why they wanted to silence you, why they want to silence Minister Farrakhan, and they want to throw that we are having hate speech when it's never hate speech, when it's not. You can't be anti-Semitic when we are the Semitic people, when we are the same people that they want to be. That's our birthright.
Here's the thing, right? We all have freedom of speech, but we're not free of the consequences of that speech. Every time we open our mouths on radio, podcast, TV, to have those types of conversations, it's a good chance we might offend someone. And even though we are free to say what we want, the people we are talking about have the freedom to respond how they want to respond. And this is how they chose to respond by, firing Nick Cannon. That's what you can do when you have the power. And if it's...
No, I want to play the next part of what he had to say about white people that was also trending. Here's what else he said.
The people that don't have it are a little less in where the term actually comes from, because I'm bringing it all the way back around to Minister Farrakhan, to where they may not have the compassion when they were sent to the mountains of Caucasus, when they didn't have the power of the sun, that the sun then started to deteriorate them. So then they're acting out of fear. They're acting out of low self-esteem. So therefore, the only way that they can act is evil.
Exactly.
So then these people who didn't have what we had, and when I say we, I speak of the melanated people. They had to be savages.
Now, see, that's a whole different conversation, though, because to sit here and act like white people don't have a history of mass racial violence in this country is just inaccurate. There's a long list of mass racial violence, savagery, if you want to call it, murder, whatever you want to call it, from white people on damn near everybody in this country. Racial violence has been a distinct part of this country since 1660, and that's a fact. And I don't even have to begin to run down the long list of violent, murderous, savage acts from white people in this country. I would just encourage you all to go to blackpast.org, and look at all the racial violence folks have experienced at the hands of white people. So that part of the conversation, that's a whole different, that's a whole different conversation.
But then we also have a conversation to say that we need our own platform so we can speak on our own platforms. Because like you said, if we don't own a platform, if somebody has a problem with what we say or don't like what we say or feels offended, they can let us go at any given point.
That was still his YouTube talk show. Well, here's what ViacomCbs had to say. They released a statement. And, he's the chairman of Teen Nick. Of course, he has Wildin' Out also. That's all Viacom. They said ViacomCbs condemns bigotry of any kind, and we categorically denounce all forms of anti-Semitism. We have spoken with Nick Cannon about an episode of his podcast, Cannon's Class on YouTube, which promoted hateful speech and spread anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. While we support ongoing education and dialogue in the fight against bigotry, we are deeply troubled that Nick has failed to acknowledge or apologize for perpetuating anti-Semitism, and we are terminating our relationship with him.
Listen, Nick is my guy. I hate it had to be him, but that's what you can do when you have the power. And if it's one thing Jewish people have showed us is they have the power. I can't wait until the day black people are able to fire people for saying things about us that we deem racist. We can barely get cops fired for actually killing us. They fired Nick for referencing a theory written by a psychologist, on racism. Also, though, if you're going to have that conversation, have it with a Jewish scholar. Have it with a rabbi. Have it with someone from that community. So anything you say that's not accurate, they can correct you. So when you say something that they deem anti-Semitic, they can correct you. To me, that's how you avoid things like this from happening.
I was having a discussion with Jasmine from the Jasmine brand, and we were talking about Mel Gibson and how he still works a lot in Hollywood, despite a lot of things that he said about Jewish people also in the past.
Whipped it. He got his ass whipped too, though. He did get his ass. I agree with you. He still is working, but he did get his ass whipped. And Nick's still working too. Like Nick still got, Fox, and he still got he got his talk show coming on Fox. He still got his radio show with out in L.A.
Does he own
right,
Wildin' Out though? I wonder if he owns the Wildin' Out. Is that his? So if they let him go, does Viacom keep that, or does he be able to take that to another platform?
I don't know what his
pretty sure
contract
Nick
says.
I'm pretty sure Nick has some ownership in Wildin' Out, but it's two different conversations that went on in that conversation though. The conversation about what's deemed anti-Semitic. I don't know anything about that, but if you want to talk about the history of white people in America and the racial violence and the savagery and the murder, that's a whole different conversation. I'm not casting a wide net saying that all white people are savages, but if you want to have an accurate conversation about history, yes, white people do have a history of mass racial violence in this country. That is accurate.
I do want to make sure we get to what Nick Cannon had to say, because he did post his own statements.
People. When we talk about who we really are as guys and understanding that our melanin is so powerful and it connects us in a way that the reason why they fear black, the reason why they fear is because the lack that they have of it. So then when you see what Dr. Francis C. Welsing talked about is that fear in that
just genetic annihilation,
deficiency of when you have a person that has the lack of pigment, the lack of melanin, that they know that they will be annihilated. So therefore, however they got the power, they have the lack of compassion. That melanin comes with compassion. Melanin comes with soul. That we call it soul. We soul brothers and sisters. That's the melanin that connects us. So the people that don't have it are a little, and I'm gonna say this carefully, are a little less, and where the term actually comes from, because I'm bringing it all the way back around to Minister Farrakhan, to where they may not have the compassion or the when they were sent to the mountains of Caucasus, when they didn't have the power of the sun, that the sun then started to deteriorate them. So then they're acting out of fear. They're acting out of low self-esteem. They're acting out of a deficiency. So therefore, the only way that they can act is evil. The only way they have to rob, steal, rape, kill, and
fight or flight,
in order to survive.
Exactly.
So then these people who didn't have what we had, and when I say we, I speak of the melanated people. Right. They had to be savages. They had to be barbaric. Because they're in these Nordic mountains. They're in these rough, torrential environments. So they're acting as animals. Right. So they're the ones that are actually closer to animals. They're the ones that are actually the true savages. And then they built up such this I don't want to say warrior, but they built up such this conquering barbaric mentality that they're coming out of Europe. They then said, in order for us to survive, we have to take what's not ours. And then they went into the land that actually where we are originated. And instead of trying to make friends, they said, we want what you got. Because there's this mentality of whether it's the Caesars or even that we have to conquer. Right. So I say all that to say the context. And when we speak of whether it's Jewish people, white people, Europeans, the Illuminati, they were doing that as survival tactics to stay on this planet. Right, because we never had to do that.
Right, because they've learned when they circumnavigated the globe and they ran into these islands and these places, and we were already there to greet them.
Right, with open arms.
Teaching them, but they
were deficient.
They were deficient, so they wanted to get what they thought we had, and we did have it. So the rape took place of the woman. The theft took place of the natural resources.
And then that's when their disease,
exactly.
That's where their mentality, because I'm trying to get to that place of how they were able to get control over the gods. How were they able to get control over their original
once they
people?
learned that, though, and now they raped and impregnated, left and came back, and they saw the child lighter, they said, wow, that's when they learned genetics, genetic annihilation. So now you have to set up a system of white supremacy to control that.
Right.
So now we have 13 families here, Illuminati that's manipulating and controlling, subgroups. Now we got to set up organizations.
Coming out of Europe.
You understand what I'm saying? And for that same system, now you're talking about survival, what you just laid out. Now it's fight or flight. Now we have to set up these systems in order to survive.
Right.
But listen, not just survive to get some damn some hamburger buns and some cheese. I'm talking about on a genetic level.
On the genetic, because they will, and that's even from the white nationalists to the white supremacy mentalities to Donald Trump himself wanting to build walls.
Right.
They're trying to keep what they consider purity.
Exactly, on a subconscious
trying to stay
level.
alive.
Because sometimes they don't know why they acting out.
It's just been proven. National Geographic just put it out by 2050.